And now it is time to put some actual content on the website. Now the most typical tag which is used to put text content on the website is something called as a P or a paragraph tag. So P here stands for paragraph, and it also has both opening and closing tags. So another tip which I can give you guys here is that always use or always write both these opening and closing tags together and then put the content in between them. Don't write the opening tag, then write the content and then put the closing tag, because it might happen that you forget putting the closing tag and that can cause blunders. Right, so I'll just write this is a sample paragraph and I'll save it and I'll refresh it. So now we have the sample paragraph on our web page, and the font, the size of the text and the location is all by default. So HTML is concerned only with putting the contents on the page, and the location and everything else, as I told you, is done with the help of CSS, which we will look at in the next section. Right, so now the next tag which you're going to look at is something called as a heading tag. So HTML basically has 6 different headings, which starts from H1 and goes all the way to H6. So let me quickly paste this a couple of times so that we get to try all the 6. So H1 is the largest heading and H6 obviously is the smallest one. Now what happens is that all the headings here are bolded by default to make it highlighted, and that is the whole purpose of having a separate tag for the headings. So I'll quickly write heading 1 and I'll copy this and I'll again change the text quickly so that you get to know all the different sizes and the differences that I am talking about. So now when we refresh the page, we find that we have 6 different headings, starting from heading 1, which is the largest one, and heading 6, which is the smallest one. Typically we use heading 2 and heading 4 on the websites because heading 1 is apparently too large and heading 6 and 5 are very small. So heading 2 is typically used for the title and heading 4 is used for the subtitle. Right, so let us quickly do that. We'll make a heading 2 here and let us say a bit about myself is the title, and we'll follow it by heading 4 and I'll say byline Akib Ajani. So there we go. So we have one H2, one H4 followed by a quick paragraph. Interests and other stuff comes here. Right, so this is one particular part of the website that we are trying to make, that is a bit about myself. Right, so now when we refresh it, we find that this looks good. We have heading 2, which is a decently sized heading, followed by a byline which highlights my name but does not make it too relevant, and the paragraph is a normal text. So now what if I want to distinguish these two? Right, I want some sort of a distinction here which clearly indicates that these are two different parts of the website, and that is done with the help of a HR tag or horizontal rule. HR stands for horizontal rule and it is a single tag. Right, because there is no content which goes here, it is simply a line which runs from one end to the other end. Right, so this is called the horizontal rule. As you can see, starts from the left end and goes to the right end. So that clearly distinguishes these two different parts of the website. Right, so that is what HR is all about. Now let me quickly copy this and paste it a couple of times so that you get to understand what I mean. I want to make the content appear on the next line. Right, so it still needs a few more. Okay, so now that you see, this content appears on the next line because there is no more space here. But in the case of Notepad++, this can extend to infinity. Right, so instead, you might be wondering what happens if I put an enter here. So since I'm putting an enter here, this content should appear on the next line on the web page also, right? So let us try it out. When we refresh the web page, we find that there is no change in the content. It is displayed in a single line. Right, even though it is on two different lines here on the web page, it is still displayed in a single line. Now the reason for that is something called as white case insensitiveness. Right, so HTML is a language which is white case insensitive, which in other words means that it does not matter how much of white space there is between two different values or two different elements of the language. it ignores the white space and takes the element whenever it finds it. So even if I put all the headings on a single line, you will find that we still have the same formatting on the web page, right? That does not affect it in any way. However, we put it on different lines to make the code more clear for us to understand. Right, so what if you want the content to go to the next line? So for that there is another single tag called as a BR tag, which stands for line break. So now that I am putting a BR tag here and I am refreshing the page, you will find that the text goes to the next line. So that is what the BR or the line break tag is used for. Right, so we saw the paragraph tag, we saw the headings, we saw the horizontal rule, and we saw the line break. Another important tag which is typically used for this particular kind of text is called H group, which stands for heading group. So it is nothing but a collection of headings to make sure that they are not lost with the other part of the website. So basically we group these two headings together to tell the user that they belong to the same content, right? So it does not affect the formatting in any way. It is just for the user to understand, or the developer to understand, that these two headings should be kept together always, right? So that is the purpose of the H group tag.